This is a follow-up video to the first video I made, featuring John Ritcheson and his testimony of lies. I will link to the first video in the description. This video shows further lies and more corroboration of lies exposed in that video.
And again at 15. So what I'm saying, but even what I'm trying to say to you, when I was 8 years old and joined the gang in Chicago, the Gaylords, which was on Gaylord Street. It was the name of a street.
And where was that, Chicago?
In Chicago, yes, sir.
There was never a Gaylord Street in Chicago. The gang took its name from the Gaylord family of Normandy, and its original members were mostly Italian, Irish, and Greek-American World War II veterans.
At 12?
At 12, for beating up my sister. And my father, we had 10 children in our family. My sister came over to the house, and her eyes were black and shut.
How old was she about?
Carol, she's 8. She died this year. She was 82. I'm 68. She's 14. So she would have been 26.
At the time?
At the time, yeah. So
I included this portion because it is further proof of the research I did on my prior video. John's parents indeed had 10 kids, one named Carol, which can be seen in my other video, which was completed long before John did this podcast appearance.
World War II vet. He was going to take care of business, but then who's going to take care of my other siblings if Dad goes to jail? My brother Ray, in an Italian family, an Italian culture.
You were in Italian?
Yeah,
You're Italian?
my mother was full-blooded Sicilian. And
my grandfather was.
Okay.
Petroni.
Yeah, the Ambrosia.
Yeah.
Again, more proof that my prior video history was correct. His mother is Rosemary D'Ambrosia.
That someday, like of course, Mr. Giancana died prior to this in his basement. They shot him 3 times in the back of the head, right in front of his freezer. And I was at the meet where he signed his death warrant. I was his chair guy. I was standing behind his chair in case something broke out. You got to be willing to step in front of him and take a bullet if necessary. And I was there, and he had been out of the country. They sent him back to Italy.
Sam Giancana was in Mexico, not Italy, after he was facing grand jury testimony. He was extradited back to the United States shortly before being murdered.
Like a different person.
Oh, yeah. I'm a new creature in Christ Jesus.
But do you have to live with it today? Even though you...
I'm on the witness protection program.
Here's John's yearbook photo. He was born John Ritcheson. He has always been John Ritcheson. His family is all Ritcheson. How and when would it be possible for him to be in the witness protection program?
Possibly can. With the days I got left, I can make people's lives better. I speak in schools all over the country, public schools, warning kids about drugs, joining a gang, how it leads to really... My sister was murdered because of me.
The same sister?
Another sister, Frances.
Oh.
My younger sister than me. My younger brother, Donald.
Now, how did she die?
John's sister Frances died as an infant before John was born. She is buried beside her and John's parents, Raymond Ritcheson and Rosemary D'Ambrosia Ritcheson, in Carmi, Illinois. John's brother Donald never made it out of the hospital. We can see here that the official Cook County records show he was disposed of in the hospital and his parents were Raymond and Rosemary. His father's obituary mentions and a son to reflect this child's short life. John has used both of these siblings that died as infants to reinforce his lie about being involved with gangs in Chicago.
The warlord of the largest white street gang is in Chicago. I set up a rumble with the Latin Kings. And we're going to meet at Humboldt Park. 600 guys from our gang, 600 guys from their gang. Bats, bottles, and knives, no guns.
So they could actually set those rules?
Oh, that was my job as the warlord. I set the rules for the rumble.
Golly.
And so that was what was set up.
That's brutal, isn't it?
It was. And we met Humboldt Park. The only problem was the Black Panthers showed up. They wanted a piece of the pie, too. It's all about the turf. If you control the turf, you control all the drug business. You control all the shops that have to pay protection money. That's all your business. You get all that money.
Now, were you in the Giovanni family at this time?
I went into the Giancana family at the age of 18, right after this occurred.
So Humboldt Park was prior to this?
Yeah.
Okay,
go ahead. But I was already being groomed for the job. And so anyway, I set the rumble up, and make a long, long story short, Instead of 2 gangs, 1,200 guys fighting, there was like 6 or 7 gangs showed up, and now you got 4,000 or 5,000 guys fighting. We'd fight all night long, then during the day we'd hold up somewhere and come right back out and fight the next night. So I set the rumble up. My baby brother Donald I joined the gang at 8. He joined the gang at 8. But I never let him get involved in anything to get him in trouble or get him hurt, get him killed. And he kept saying, Johnny, you gotta let me fight in this rumble. Because I picked the guys that would fight. And if a guy had a wife, I would pick him last. If he had kids, I'd pick him way last. And so he kept begging me. He said, man, they're disrespecting me. I've got no street cred. You got to let me fight in this fight. Fingers are gone in his right hand. They had cut him open with straight razors, and his intestines were laying out in the alley. So naturally, I run up to him, grab his insides, put him back in, best I could. Tucked my shirt off, wrapped it around him to hold his insides in. And he's looking at me. He said, don't let me die. Don't let me die. Johnny, don't let me die. And I lied to him. I said, you're not going to die. But Johnny, you got to come. It's Frances. Well, I get to my sister Frances, and she's right on the main street, North Avenue, Wabansia. And hundreds of cars go by constantly, broad daylight. And they shot her 3 times in the back of the head with a .357.
How old was she?
17. My brother Donald was 15.
God, all in the side of a week?
All within 3 days. They were trying to flush me out, and they did, but not the way they wanted. And to make a long story short, they both died horrible deaths because of me. Literally, I killed my brother and my sister. My lifestyle, my decisions killed them. The only good thing I can take out of it, and people have a hold of these red bars that are burning red from the heat. They got their faces pressed against it, screaming to get out. Screaming to get out. And it was bad enough just seeing that. Then all of a sudden, I see 2 people I know. And it's my brother. And it's my sister. In hell. Them dying was bad enough. But knowing they were in hell. In the dream, I started begging God, please, God, please put me in hell and let them out.
2 babies being in hell is not likely. Not sure I can say the same for this man. In addition to these easily proven lies, here are a few tall tales and falsehoods from this podcast interview.
And I grabbed him, pulled him to me, and bit his ear off. Literally bit it off. And swallowed it. Now that's disgusting. Mr. Giancana served under the Gambino family in New York.
Sam Giancana had no affiliation with the Gambino family in New York. He worked in the Chicago outfit under Al Capone. He was also not affiliated with the Gaylord gang John mentions earlier. He was with the 42 gang.
And I was a member
Which
of
was
the
Whitey Bulger, is that right?
Yeah, Whitey Bulger.
Whitey Bulger was not with the Gambino family. He was based in Boston.
Mr. Gambino.
Did you know
Carlos Gambino.
Did you know?
Perhaps he misspoke, but ask yourself, would anyone who is related to gang activity call Carlos Gambino? This is a major red flag.